Hey everyone. If I end up sounding a bit salty, it's because the crystal sage has been killing me by stupid reasons. Like I would either not be allowed to attack, even though I'm not getting hit, or the air would kill me. So if I sound salty, it's because I am salty. Anyways, today we are looking at the Corvian Great Scythe. This was actually the first weapon in Dark Souls 3 that I kicked butt with. So the Corvian Great Scythe, it's a scythe, so it has the neck swipe weapon art, which I find pretty decent. It has good range, and this attack aims for the scruff of a foe's neck, and when successful, functions as a headshot inflicting heavy damage. Here's neck swipe. As you can see, it has pretty decent range, and something I believe scythes can actually do is sneak around the shield. So if shields are giving you a problem, this is a good weapon. So this weapon is best on a dexterity, luck, or hybrid of the two build, because it's got stronger dex scaling than strength scaling, and it does 40 bleed damage after being upgraded twice. I don't know how much it does before the upgrades. I didn't check before upgrading it 10 days ago. Or something like that. So I don't know. I'd say early game go with a dex build or dex and luck build. And in later game you can move to a hollow build if you want. So this weapon is super good, and it's one of the best bleed weapons in the game, as a friend has said. I don't know if I believe that or not. There's multiple weapons I have yet to actually use. But yeah, this thing can proc bleed relatively easily. And with its range and stagger, it's not hard to stun lock your enemy into a definite bleed situation. It's really fast, especially for the length of it. It's got a killer moveset. Come on, run. And like always, the running R2 is a jump attack, which you never ever use. Now let's say you're against an enemy who is super resistant to bleed or is like immune to it, because in PvE some enemies just are immune to bleed. This weapon does not rely on bleed damage. It has pretty decent physical. Oh, and the outfit is just, I've been trying Fashion Souls lately. Do not know what to do with the gloves. But this weapon is kind of insane. So, one of the only problems with the Corvian Great Scythe, I'm actually coming after the Wing Knight specifically to show you this, is the backstab with Scythe is just plain lazy. Okay, it's just lazy. You're gonna see what I mean by lazy. It's not very well done. The animation isn't really that well done. See, you just stab a completely blunt bit of your weapon through your enemy like it's some sort of a spear. Like, what? Now, if it was a weapon that typically had a point on it, I could understand it. Like, the Wing Knight Halberd's a good example of that. There's usually a spike on the end of it, but that weapon is just a giant blade, this guy's weapon. So it's a stab, because the rest of it, the weapon type, has a tip on the end. But this has no tip. It's a scythe, it's not a freaking spear. So yeah, the backstab and riposte is just a bit lazy. But this weapon is super fun and super powerful. Regrettably, it's not as effective in PvE as a totally physical build. Because some enemies are immune to bleed, and some enemies are quite resistant to bleed. So unfortunately in PvE it's not the best, but because it doesn't rely on bleed, it's just a good all-around weapon. It is usable in PvE, although I feel like a weapon that can proc bleed this easily can just destroy PvP. It's not the fastest bleed proc. I mean, that's the Crow Talons, hands down. That thing can proc it in just a couple hits, but this thing is still pretty good at it, and I don't personally know if luck improves the damage of bleed or improves how quickly you can proc it, but there's something there. It boosts bleed in some way. The best infusions for this thing are sharp or hollow, simply because of what it would scale with best. I wish there was like a gem that allows you to scale with dex and bleed and luck. That would be insane. I don't do luck weapons too often, because to get access to a hollow infusion you have to get the profaned coal, which I've never found. I may have to call up a friend of mine about that. But yeah, it's still a really good weapon even if you can't hollow infuse it, because it has pretty good dex scaling. And heck, before I was kicking butt with it on a strength build, so this weapon can really be used in any way as long as you can afford the stats, which aren't too bad. 16 strength, 18 dex. It's not that bad requirement-wise. You could use it pretty early game, despite having to get to road to sacrifices and farm Corvians for it. But it is a truly brutal weapon, and I would not want to be on the wrong side of this thing. You definitely want to two-hand it. It doesn't mean too much for the moveset if you don't. I just think it looks more accurate. It's just better cosmetically. I mean, you get a tiny bit of a speed boost one-handed, but you also get less damage. And because a scythe has decent range, you don't need all that speed. You can get by on the range, and it's not that great of a speed boost. Actually, I'm not noticing any speed boost at all now that I think about it. Yeah, a lot of weapons in this game, unless they're usable effectively with a shield, you want to two-hand them, simply because more damage. Now, if they don't scale with strength for whatever reason, that's not the case, because what two-handing does is it gives you a 50% increase to strength. But, I'm trying to think of a weapon that only scales with dex, but I can't. I really can't think of one. So typically, you'll get that boost, but I know there's one or two weapons in this game that don't scale with strength at all, or have crappy strength scaling. Anyways, how do I feel about this weapon, not power-wise, but personally? Well, it's super edgy, which makes me like it already. It fits the fashion souls I like, which is edgy. Basically, if you're an edgy boy, you're gonna like this weapon. And I am an edgy boy, so I like this weapon. There's not much else to say about the Corvian Greatscythe, nothing I know of. Other than the special power Scythe and Lucerne seem to have, which is what people like to call the sweet spot. If you manage to hit your enemy with the right part of the weapon, you'll inflict extra damage. And with neck swipe, it's like they're trying to emphasize on that. Anyways, that's what I think about the Corvian Greatscythe. Oh, holy crap, there was more to say about this than I thought. We're almost at 12 minutes. I hope I can get this to upload.